Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Spellweaver video. Today I'm starting what I hope to be a long-running series. I had this brainstorm the other night, and I just kind of thought, hey, let's go with it. Back when I played Kaijudo, which was a physical card game run by Hasbro, owned by, or backed by Wizards, who are the masterminds behind Magic the Gathering. One of the more famous players had an article series, kind of like he put out an article every, I think it was week or week and a half or so. He called it Deck Doctor. And what Deck Doctor did is someone sent him a deck list, and he took a look at it, said, this is good, I like what you're doing here. There's a really cool combo here between these cards. But he said, might be able to streamline it a little bit more, might be able to get it to do what you want it to do better by, let's say, changing this out, taking this card out, and replacing it with this instead. I had to move my mic here for a second. There, that's better. So, that's the kind of thing I wanted to do. People have asked me a lot, and I've done it in the past in some of the deck spotlight videos I've done, where I've gone, at the end of the video, I've gone, I would change this, tweak this, take this out, put this in, kind of thing. So, I've decided maybe I should just try and do a regular video series of that. So we're going to take a look at the tricolor control deck I just spotlighted. I'm actually doing this immediately after recording the games I just played with it. So my ideas are still pretty fresh in my mind, and we're just going to go ahead and jump into so the colors are, the aspect are wisdom, nature, and rage. Not three colors you usually see combined, but personally I really enjoyed the deck. It worked really well for me. So like I said before, the win conditions are Foundry Engineers and Lances of Fear. Now, two things I want to touch on almost immediately with this deck is the two things that really stuck out to me when I was playing my games. Number one, Obelisk of Unity isn't really as needed as you would think. Obelisk of Unity is primarily for decks that are really heavy into Wisdom and need the Obelisk to kind of act as mana fixing for them, especially when they're playing cards like Karthos and Red Dragon, and all those cards that kind of require, multiple levels of each, of a certain aspect in order to play. Because this deck functions perfectly fine on one level of all three aspects, I'm confident that it doesn't need Obelisk of Unity, because unless you're really, really hurting, you probably won't be needing to play a second Wisdom Shrine for level, and then using Obelisk of Unity to change it into the aspect you need. I didn't really have problems with that in my games, although one of the things I'm going to address is the shrine count. I feel like there could be a few more shrines in this deck. The other thing is, I like the one of Airship Explorer, and again, I am keeping in mind that the people who send me these decks don't necessarily have access to all the cards, but that's one of the things that it was told when I was sent this deck list, is that he kind of built this with what he had, so that's why the numbers might be a little off. So the other thing that jumped out at me almost immediately was he's got 3 Venerated Unicorns and 3 Gnome Power Engineers. That's 6 cards to deal with spells and artifacts. And while that, spells and artifacts can suck, I think 6 cards is a little much, especially when you can be doing something else with those slots. Now, do you pick Gnome Power Engineer? Do you pick Venerated Unicorn? Both have their ups, both have their downs. Personally, I think I'd stick with the Gnome Power Engineer instead of the Venerated Unicorn, just because of its synergy with the Foundry Engineer. And, potentially you could be fitting other energy cards in there, like potentially a Dust Titan as a finisher. So, we're just gonna go ahead and dump off the Venerated Unicorns. Now how tricolor decks usually work in, or TriAspect decks work in Spellweaver is usually it's two colors primarily, kind of like a Wisdom Rage kind of control deck with just a tiny splash of a third aspect, kind of like and that's kind of how this deck plays out. It's even with the Venerated Unicorns, you're only playing 3 different cards that require nature, and you've got only a couple nature shrines. So primarily this is a Wisdom Rage deck with a splash of nature, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that as a concept. But so just keeping that in mind when we're building, we don't need to go too heavily into nature. I like the Jungle Death Trap, I really do, as a means of countering early game rush. But another thing that helps counter early game rush are Frost Elementals. And I know that doesn't necessarily seem like it, but being able to trade up, even this 1/3 into like a 2/2 or a 3/2 because you froze it, can be a big swing in your favor. So what I'm going to recommend, and this is fine if you don't have the 3rd Frost Elemental, but I'm going to recommend you go down to 3 Flash Freeze and up to 3 Frost Elementals. I really like having both of these cards in the deck because of the synergy with Disciple of Zash, which primarily I would bump up to 4, just because of the synergy with Frost or with the freezing effects, and its ability to ping off 1 health creatures like goblins, like Mesmerizing Spirits, like the Moon Priestess. And if you get 2 of them off, you can ping off stuff like Spell Wardens and Foundry Engineers. So this is a really good card in this control deck, and that's why I want to bump it up to 4. A card I didn't get to play with in the Game Spotlight video, I apologize, was the Orc Javelineers, and really, the more I think about this card, the more I like it. I mean, it does seem kind of underwhelming, 3/4 for 3 and 2 levels, and it's only got 1 speed, but because it's ranged, it can really trade well with stuff that's, of the same speed as it. That's its one downside, is it's 1 speed. But when you've got creatures, when you've got stuff like zombies and, some of the slower soldiers you can trade with, it does kind of just sit there and be like, well, you're going to have a hard time trading with me, especially, and even if you think about it, it's a good attacking creature because it's ranged and because it has 3 attack and 4 health. Even if you have something faster than it that can block it, it rarely ever is going to get killed in combat, because you've got to get something with 4 health or 4 attack that can survive that. Now, obviously, it dies to Hydra, it dies to Dread Knight, it dies to the really big creatures in the game. But other than that, it can be kind of hard to deal with. Because it's got the 3 health, it's not getting assassinated. The spell line here, I'm really a fan of. I really like the Fireball. The Ancient Wisdoms are good. The Flash Freeze I've already talked about, and I was kind of on the fence about the New Horizons, but as the games that I played dragged on, and I had the New Horizon, and I was still missing a level, I was sitting there thinking, thank God I have the New Horizon, because then if I had Wisdom and Rage unlocked in one game, and I had a Jungle Death Trap or an Elf Tracker, I think, in my hand, and I had the New Horizon, and I was like, alright, I'm at like 10 mana, it doesn't hurt to just play the New Horizon, get the level for when I feel like I need to play one of these 2. So 2 New Horizons, perfect, keep it that way. The only thing I would say to change with spells is maybe we could find room for like a Tornado Outbreak or 2, or a Landslide. Now again, they might not have access to these cards, but I'm going to actually just remove epics because we're not putting any of those in the deck. Although you could, in theory, since he's unlocked through one of the quest zone, when you unlock the quest zones, you get him. You could put a red dragon in this deck if you have him. The only reason I'm hesitant to is because the whole idea of this deck is being able to play it off of just the 3 levels, and because he's 4 levels, that might be a reason I'm hesitant to put him in. But hey, if he fits your preference, go for it. But what I do want to put in spell-wise in the deck is I'm going to put in 2 sleeps. And because we're going to put in 2 sleeps, I am going to bump the Gnome Power Engineers up to 4. Because we're doing that, because of the sleeps and being able to like destroy a Restless Tombs and put the energy into a sleep that you've got an undead Hydra, and while you're waiting to draw your freezes, that can be a really big swing for you. I'm also going to bump. I'd bump Disquisitive Spirit up to 4 if you have them, just because Disquisitive Spirit is such a good anti-rush card. It trades with goblins. It trades with the Spoiled Aristocrat. It can help double block and really trade up, and you get the value of the card draw for it, like I did against that Dread Knight in one of my games. Just that extra 1 damage. That's the other reason I really like Disciple of Zash, is because it's you're trading a 4/4 into a 5/5. It's dead but the Disciple of Zash pings and helps kind of balance things out, and the trade goes off, and you've only really spent 1 mana to ensure that your trades are going off the way you like it to. Other than that, more Foundry Engineers for because they're kind of the win condition of this deck, being able to overrun your opponent with them. And the other thing I wanted to do is I really wanted to kind of tweak and fix the shrines in this deck, although I'm going to bump this down to 3 just because of room. 19 shrines is kind of low, especially for a control deck, especially a control deck that is 3 aspects. So what I would do is I would go up to 8 Wisdom Shrines, 7 Rage Shrines, and I might even do more, 21, and let's go up to 22, so that means we got to cut something. I'm not a huge fan of the Airship Explorer. It's really, I like it, it's good, but for digging, but I never really drew it, and I never really felt like I needed it. Sure, it blocks some of the bigger creatures, but in all reality, you're killing off most of the creatures, so I think Airship Explorer can kind of go. And we'll bump this up to, we'll go 9 Wisdom Shrines, 5 Nature Shrines, 7 Rage Shrines, and we'll have the Enchanted Spring. I like the one of Enchanted Spring. You might want to bump that up to 2 when you get a second one, just because that means you'll see it more often, and you'll be able to use it on your Frost Elemental, your Gnome Power Engineer, your Library Guard, your Elf Tracker. You'll be able to see it more consistently and be able to get its effect off more consistently. And as everyone knows who's been with my channel for a while, bounce decks are one of the decks I enjoy playing. So I'm just personally a fan of bouncing a creature back and playing it for its effect again. So that's going to do it for episode 1 of Boltor's Deck Doctor, or maybe I'll come up with a more clever name. If you've got a more clever name for it, feel free to leave that in the comments. I have a Facebook page now. Boltor Spellweaver has a Facebook page now, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. Just my attempt to kind of use social media to spread my channel a little bit more. The more I can spread my channel, the more the game gets spread, and I've talked about all the ways you can help the game, and with the Steam Freudian slip, Steam release in the near future. I go into, in my gameplay of this deck, I go into a lot of how we can help the game grow big time with that coming up. So, the more the game grows, the more popular it gets, the more the devs can do with the game, and the shorter we have to wait in queues, right? That's the annoying part. That's what really matters to us players, are the long queue waits. More people in ranked means, you won't have to sit there for 5 minutes waiting for a ranked game. So that's what we really care about. So that's going to do it for me, guys. I really hope you enjoyed episode 1 of Deck Doctor. Deck Doctor is going to be a series that's going to come out whenever I get a deck to doctor. So I'm not going to, find someone's deck on the database and go, oh, I think I know better than this person. Let me go ahead and just give them unsolicited advice, because that makes me look like a dick. Plain and simple. So if you have a deck that you want me to kind of look at and give put my 2 cents in, go ahead and send it to me, or put it in the forum thread that I have for this channel. I prefer personal messages because, the less clutter we can have on the threads, the better. But hey, maybe I'll make a thread for Deck Doctor decks. Maybe. If so, if I do, go ahead and post them there. I'm just trying to make the life easier for the devs because their lives are hard enough. At any rate, guys. One more thing: more Lamps of Fear. When you get them, more Lamps of Fear, because Lamps of Fear is kind of one of your win conditions. So, I hope if you were interested in this deck, you kind of stuck around to the end there. But at any rate, guys, that's going to do it for me. May the cards rise to meet you and bring good RNG to your enemies.